Hi, I'm Amy Gottwalls, Chief of Public Policy and External Affairs for the National Association of Area Agencies on Aging, and I'm bringing to you today a legislative update on the Older Americans Act reauthorization efforts. Why now? We are at a really critical juncture in advancing the Older Americans Act reauthorization this year. It's a top priority of n4a's, I hope a top priority of yours, but unfortunately things have slowed down considerably in the Senate, which will make it hard to get a House and Senate bill to agree and move it forward into law this year. Why is it important to do it in 2014? Well, one of the reasons you have a national association based in Washington, D.C. is to be able to have your staff here, to be able to be reading the policy tea leaves, connecting with key members on Capitol Hill, and really staying engaged in the process, whether things are moving quickly or slowly. We've been reading those policy tea leaves for quite a while now and really feel strongly that the climate in 2015 will not be more favorable for a swift and good reauthorization effort. We think we will face more challenges, more threats to some of the programs that as they currently exist, and some other elements that we're able to get in the Senate bipartisan bill this year may be at risk and not be difficult to preserve going forward. So as we look ahead, we have concerns about the climate and not necessarily a better, more conducive environment to great policy making, especially on such a vital law like the Older Americans Act. Now, where do we stand? S-1562 was a bipartisan, very modest bill that moves the Older Americans Act reauthorization forward. It passed out of a Senate Help Committee at the very end of October, but because there were concerns around the funding formula provisions that were not addressed in that legislation, Chairman Harkin appointed a special working group to be able to go deeper on some concerns raised by some senators on the committee. Those are funding formula issues, and as soon as those arise in any process, N4A, along with its peers at other national aging groups, traditionally takes a few steps back and stays out of that specific engagement. It's really up to the senators to be able to figure out how you deal with such a difficult situation as a funding formula conversation. And obviously one of the reasons we step carefully back is that we recognize that depending on what the senators would agree on, let's say some sort of compromise, we stand in a position to have some of our members benefit and some have to receive something that would feel harmful to them. So we don't engage in that process. Well, the good news was that the process went forward. There was a lot of careful consideration, a lot of conversations among the staff of the key senators engaged in this, and that process continued throughout the winter and into mid-spring. Unfortunately, that process has ground to a halt. They've essentially pressed pause on advancing any kind of compromise related to this or advancing S-1562 in any form or fashion. And that's where we feel like we have to get involved again as advocates, which is exactly why I'm bringing this video your way and why you should will also have our most recent advocacy alert asking you to get involved. We'll let you decide what are in the best interest of seniors in your state and around the country as far as weighing in on any formula funding changes from provisions. But what we ask you to do today, next week, next month, until we get this act reauthorized, is to get really engaged, really loud, and be really effective as advocates to raise the noise on Capitol Hill, to get this back on the front burner, to get some momentum going. We will still leave it to the senators to work out something that would be acceptable to all 100, but if we don't turn up the heat under them and say we need this done in 2014, it simply won't happen. We have a great shot here, folks. If we could actually get the Senate to find this very elusive and challenging, no doubt, compromise and move this legislation forward in a bipartisan way, we believe that the House would be able to take it up and move it pretty rapidly, and we could actually have a bill here by year's end. If we don't, we face, as I said, a more challenging, less certain political environment, policy environment going forward in 2015. So please reach out to your N4A staff. That's myself, certainly Sandy Markwood, our CEO, and also on our policy team is Autumn Campbell, who's Director of Public Policy and Advocacy. Reach out to any of us, please, via email, via phone. Let us know what's going on in reauthorization in your efforts in your area, any concerns you have, or if you need additional resources to be an engaged advocate on this. Please also spread the word in your community, share our advocacy alert far and wide, and get more folks weighing in on the critical importance of this act and the programs and services it develops and funds across the country. Thank you in advance for your advocacy, and again, reach out to N4A if there's anything else we can do for you on advocacy or other issues.